that's not very good or whatever, even though it continues to put up results. For me in Modern, that's Murfolk. And I even kind of feel this way about the deck too, even though it doesn't lose very much. And I'm not entirely sure. For Murfolk, it's like, well, it doesn't really have any bad matchups, but it doesn't really have any good matchups either. It's just this deck that exists, but it continues to win.
Oh, I think this deck is very, very solid. If you're trying to block, that's hard to do because of all the island locking and spreading seas type effects. And it can also just make creatures very, very large. There's enough card advantage woven in as well where it's hard to beat the deck just by chinning together removal spells.
Manamo, School on Water's Edge. That's right, I know that one. Used to play with that one in Kamigawa Block Constructed into Aether Vial. It's a great start here for Nance. Now, Patrick, I do have to let you down a little bit here. Those tokens from Haunted Horror.
Does it not work?
They have Pro Black.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that's the whole deck.
Yeah.
That's the whole deck.
If you want to splash blue for like Echoing Truth, you can. But yeah, it's not.
It wasn't enough that they just gave you 6 power worth it.
Yeah, that's tough.
Oh God,
it's tough to watch right there. Here's an island. This is a Spreading Seas.
I'm so disheartened.
I know.
I don't even want to call this match.
Are we going to Violent a Curse Catcher and counter that? Oh, baby. Hunter Nance taking Danny to the woodshed here.
Yep, good opening.
Violet can be going up to 2 soon.
God, that is just so disappointing. I cannot get over the fact that the tokens have protection for black.
Well, Danny's without black mana now, so that's not great. It's got a Sulfur Falls out there, though.
I guess Languish has to be the card.
Look at you still working on this deck. Danny will pass the turn back. Vial's going up to 2. Nance will take a draw. That's like a new hunted cycle. That's all.
Don't expect me to say much here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really thrown for a loop.
Here's Noboro, Palace in the Clouds, and now Curse Catcher. That's in. Vial's on 2. It's ready to push stuff in for Nance. He'll pass the turn back over to Jessup. Jessup will draw. This really does feel like a good matchup for Murfolk, especially because Danny's trying to control the game, so he doesn't have like the auto win with Splinter Twin.
Yeah, the vulnerability of Murfolk in this matchup is the sequences like Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster Mage, and the Lightning Bolt keep the board suppressed. But Hunter is doing a very good job of not really allowing Danny to do much with removal thus far. And that gives Hunter an opportunity to maybe set up a board and then pushes stuff outside of Lightning Bolt range, and that's where things get very good for the Murfolk player.
Nance going to Violent a Lord of Atlantis. Let me make the Curse Catcher a little bit bigger. Terminate's going to go after that. We'll see if this resolves. And it will. The thing that's tough here for Jessup, however, is that he's got to point and click and kill everything. Because if he doesn't, those creatures can maybe get out of Lightning Bolt range, and that's where life gets really difficult, because this really is, at its heart, a pack rat deck. You've got Lord of Atlantis, you've got Master of the Pearl Trident, you've got Marrow Reedry, just making all of the fishies bigger. That's a Marrow Reedry. Now Nance is going to tap some mana. Master of the Pearl Trident. There's also get a trigger there from the Reedry to tap her and tap a permanent. Looks like Nance is going to go after one of Jessup's lands. Looks like Remand is going to go after the Master of the Pearl Trident, a temporary answer. Jessup will draw a card. There's an island, gets to redeploy. Also gets a Marrow Reedry trigger, which is going to untap the island. Now here's a pretty healthy attack. You can already see how far ahead Nance is right now.
And this is a really good sequence here from Hunter of, set up, set up, set up, set up. Now here's a wave of threats, and really overwhelm Danny's ability to answer them piece by piece.
Reedry didn't get to attack that turn because it was vialed in on the main phase. But Nance got to do a lot that turn, build up a pretty good army, and now all of a sudden Jessup is on the back foot, and blockers like Tasker or Grimrock Angler are no good because Spreading Seas is out there as is just a basic island.
Yeah, defending yourself with blockers against Murfolk is very hard to do.
It's a bad spot to be in for Danny. I think he knows it too. You can see the body language. Every turn has been a good one here for Hunter.
Yeah, and the part of the problem is every workaround that Danny has in spots like this doesn't really function right now. And we're reaching the point of the game soon where even Lightning Bolt's going to be off the table as far as interaction's concerned. And at that point, Danny can't do much to defend himself.
Don't have a great look at what's in Jessup's hand at this point. Looks like he may have at least one more copy of Terminate. He's got to get these cards out of his hand, though. The question is, which Murfolk do you kill? Retreat has relevant text, but so does Master of the Pearl Trident with its Island Walk. He's considering a removal spell at this point. Gonna go Snapcaster Mage land.
Now, with Snapcaster here, I'm much more inclined to get the Master off the table and hope that you get to block if Hunter is out of action.
Gonna fire away there with 1 mana available to pay for Curse Catcher. Nance taking a long look at the card in his hand. And Master's gonna bite the dust. Nance will untap. Gonna leave that Vial at 3. Oh, it's going up to 4. Okay, we're in Master of Waves territory now. Dismember is the card right now in Nance's hand. Looks like Silvergill Adept was the draw. A little awkward here.
Yep. I mean, Hunter can still hold tight. Land number 5 allows him to cast it. Any Murfolk he draws allows him to cast it.
Yep.
The question is if he wants to dismember the Snapcaster or not.
I think you do. You just want to keep getting damage through.
Yep.
This is an attack for 4. Put Jessup down to 10. I think the longer the game goes, the better it gets for Danny, so you got to try to get it over.
No, I agree. The risk here is just now he's vulnerable to Tassiger.
For sure.
But
for sure.
I agree with you. Hunter needs to keep applying the pressure.
Pairings board. Again, 200 giant players. Your seedings are up on the I to M pairings board on yellow paper.
Now Jessup. 6 lands on the battlefield. Colors don't appear to be an issue at this point, even though there was an early spreading season in the game. And it looks as though he still has another copy of Terminate in hand. For now, he'll pass a turn back. Gonna activate Vial. I love a fake Vial activation, I must say. Here's a Terminate. And nothing for Nance to put in. So he'll untap and draw. Silvergill Adept in hand. That's land number 5. That's actually a pretty good one.
Yep. This is not how you want to do it, ideally, but, you know, the Cavern's nice for Hunter to have here and allows him to cast a Silvergill Adept.
Uncounterable Silvergill Adept on the way. And a card will be drawn. Now Nance will just pass the turn back. Jessup going to sacrifice the fetch land. He'll go down to 8.
I think Hunter has drawn Master of Waves off of that Silvergill Adept.
That'd be a good draw.
That's what we call a good draw.
Yeah. Protection from red, very relevant in this matchup.
Yep. No Terminators, no Bolts.
No Call Guns commands. Now the question is actually, does Jessup does have a way to take care of it. He has Dark Blast, and he has a Go for the Throat. But those are both one-ofs. So he is not really full with ways to deal with it. There's a Polluted Delta. Here's an activation. Yeah, this time I actually do have the 4 mana. Yep, and that's going to do it right away, because that's going to bring in a bunch of elemental tokens. You've got 1 for Master itself, 1 for Silvergill Up, 1 for Curse Catcher, and we can't forget the Spreading Seas that was out there too. So there are your blue mana symbols. That's a bunch of 2-1s to get the job done. Hunter Nance has win game number 1 here over Danny Jessup. Murfolk up a game over Grixis Control. We go to the sideboards here. We'll start with Jessup. He's got 3 Blood Moons, 2 Dispels. Bunch of singletons here. Let's run them down. Keranos got a Storms, Engineered Explosives, Vandal Blast, Thoughtseize, Anger of the Gods, Spellskite, Magma Spray, Rending Volley, Is It Static Caster, and Jace, Architect of Thought. What do you like?
Anything that slows down the action here, any piece of removal that Danny can get his hands on is good for him. The 1 copy of Engineered Explosives, the 1 copy of Anger of the Gods, they're very, very good here. The Rending Volley is excellent. I would even go to things like Magma Spray and even consider Is It Static Caster, just anything that can block or kill a creature on Hunter's side, anything to contain his critical mass. Danny wants anything he can get his hands on in that space.
What do we see on Hunter Nance's side?
A Dismember, 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus, 3 Spellskites, a Hibernation, 3 Tiebinder Mage, a Spell Pierce, 2 Dispel, 2 Unified Will. I think you're going to see some of the counterspell stuff come in. I think the Unified Wills, the Dispels, and the Spell Pierces are all reasonable. Kind of ironic given how much I was talking about it, but this seems like a bad matchup for Harbinger of Tides. There's not a whole lot to bounce on Danny's side of the table, so Hunter can cut those pretty easily, bring in a little bit more removal. You know, if he wants the extra Dismember and the counter spells, I think are good for him in the matchup.
Well, these players will sideboard up. We'll get ready here for game number 2. Danny and Jessup will be on the play, but in the meantime, we will talk about the Star City Games YouTube channel, where you can find replays of this match and a whole bunch more.
Yeah, you know, we're at youtube.com/Star City Games video and become a subscriber today. Get updated when new content goes up on the page. There's a lot of stuff there, like Versus Series articles, premium archives, open series archives, and some content that is exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxings. Again, head over to youtube.com/Star City Games video. You get updated whenever new content goes on the website. Some of it's exclusive to the page, and there's a lot to go through.
We got over 60,000 subscribers, so be one of them. Best of all, it's free.
It is free.
The F word, free, coming out early today. Now, Patrick, Twitter has been a roller coaster ride right now, so Hunted Horror.
Doesn't work with BioBlight.
People are letting us know. So I'm following the Twitter conversation saying, it doesn't work with BioBlight. And now they can feel the disappointment. However, they are coming to your aid. Torpor Orb. It's a way to go.
Awesome.
Okay. Go past that. Hushwing Griff as well.
Okay.
Ratchet Bomb, great way to take care of the tokens once they do come in. Anger of the Gods, you've got great mana fixing.
Graven Karens, a lot of pressure on Graven Karens in that sort of deck.
But, you know, there are ways for you to get past these tokens, and now we even have a hashtag, which is Make Hunted Horror Happen. So people are on board with your brewing efforts, so much so that they really want to see you get a stew going.
Okay.
And for those of you who do own Hunted Horrors, be sure to have Patrick sign them at the next tournament you see.
I mean, Slay is great.
That's a great start, except for, again, they have Pro Black.
Yeah. But they might have other green creatures, right?
That's true.
So
That's true.
We'll start there.
I think Ratchet Bomb is an easy fix to the
Engineer
problem.
Explosives.
Also easy. And flexible.
Yep.
Yep.
Tidebinder Mage, a little tough on the mana. A little tough on the mana.
Black, blue. Well, it's modern. You can like play any mana base you want. Because now you got the Ancient Ziggurats going.
Yep.
Go ahead and get that in there.
Repeal.
Ooh, value.
That's sort of.
It feels like value.
Yeah. More options, I'm sure. More options.
It's too bad Slay doesn't work. I really would like. I mean, Bioblight's the obvious one, but Slay, you gotta get your card there.
Yeah. Just so many edges.
Yeah. There's a deck to be had here.
Anger of the Gods is great. That's tough on the mana, though.
That's good. That's good against other decks too.
Yeah, that's just a card you can play against other people.
And you finish them off with Hunted Horror. We got a Serum Visions here from Jessup. And he has a copy of Anger of the Gods in his sideboard this weekend as he's scrying.
And I think it's the best card in his sideboard for this matchup.
I think so.
It's very hard for Hunter to operate against that card unless he has Aether Vial and has flexibility with how he deploys his threats. But if he's just casting stuff on curve, Anger of the Gods is really bad news.
Looks like cards are going to the bottom there for Jessup. Nance will draw a card. Let's see if he's got Vial to start things off. He's just gotten a Boro and he'll pass the turn back. For some reason, Oboro is like one of my favorite lands of all time. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't really do anything.
Right.
It's just a special island with text that is rarely relevant, but I love it. I used to play it in my Magnivore deck.
Well, you were just hoping to legend rule other people who had done the same thing.
Yeah, there was that. Or, you know, you can't Stone Rain that one, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Here's a Silver Guild Ep. It's uncounterable. Reveal Master of the Pearl Trident. Take a draw. Pass the turn back. Good start here for Nance. Jessup going to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn. Likely going to get a black source of mana here.
I had to imagine many of Danny's counterspells came out in this matchup anyway because they're not even good, even if they're resolving. I mean, we saw Remand resolve last game and just wasn't very good. Particularly against a deck with Aether Vial and Cavern of Souls, I had to imagine most of that's been cut.
Head back Jessup's way. He's got himself a Blood Crypt. All colors online at this point. Island the draw step. Grixis Control, certainly a pillar of this format. You get Snapcaster Mage, you get Lightning Bolt, you get Kolaghan's Command, you get cheap threats in Tasigur and Gormag Angler. Not too surprising to see Jessup play a deck like this. He's typically someone who does play what are perceived to be the best decks in the format. got 3 mana. Let's see what he wants to do with it. Looks like he's got a command to fire off here. He'll take care of Silvergill Adept. And I think make Nance discard a card as well. And he will discard an island. Pass the turn back over to Hunter. There's a copy of Mutavault. And now an uncommon winner will retreat. So, to Jessup we go. One of the few decks that actually gets to play Mutavault.
Yeah, and that card's very, very powerful. When we watched Murfolk in the top 8 of the Invitational a little while back, surprising how much trouble Urzatron had with that card.
Yeah.
Murfolk player was able to keep punching even though the game was looking like it was getting away.
Another command. I like the main phase commands here too.
Don't want to get fancy here, and I like Danny playing this game of just trying to attrition Hunter out. This also paves the way for cards like Snapcaster Mage to be a backbreaker. So just keep Hunter's board and cards in hand as pinned down as possible. 2 for 1 as best you can, and hopefully he just runs out of stuff.
There's a Master of the Pearl Trident. Time to fire at Mutavault. It's going to come across for 3. Yeah, Jessup will take 3.
Another modern deck I've been working on is Mutavault and Goblin Grenade. Not because I think that's particularly good, but that is really funny to me for some reason.
That's how you want to finish them off?
That's every creature type,
Yeah.
including Goblin. Now Pile Driver has been reprinted. That's
Goblins is probably a thing now. There are enough cards to make it a thing. Should Goblin Grenade have, it should have the tribal stamp on it. I wish.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have that technology back in Fallen Empires.
I don't know if they just make a new one. They just make a carbon copy but give it the tribal stamp.
Tribal spells come with a lot of rules, baggage, and so forth, but anyhow, Mutavault, in the queue of decks I'm working on, Mutavault Goblin Grenade.
It's just always brewing.
Just charms me for some reason. Whenever I tell someone about it, they giggle. And it's not even like it's that powerful of a thing to be doing, right? It's just really funny.
It's just really funny, yeah. So those are the first 8. You gotta forget the other 52.
Yeah. Probably at least a couple more goblins. You don't want to be all in on the Mutavault.
It's negotiable. Nance, a lot of options here, and it's tough to play in all this open mana. He's got to start by just attacking for 2. Jessup has got a Rending Volley to take care of that.
It's tough for Hunter to initiate an attack with several creatures in spots like this because of Snapcaster Mage. He sort of needs to attack with one thing, have Danny play a removal spell, and then pass the turn. Because if he attacks with multiple things, and Danny goes, all right, block one thing, flashback a removal spell, Hunter can't handle those kind of exchanges right now. So for the time being, Hunter's kind of just test the waters with one attack at a time, because if Danny goes, all right, Snapcaster Mage, flashback removal spell, don't cast it, I'll block, then Hunter can say, all right, go, your turn. And if Danny does want to use the removal spell and flash it back, well, then Hunter can deploy a bunch of threats and try to overpower the Snapcaster Mage, but he can't go 2 or 3 attackers at a time right now.
So what sounds like you're saying to me is that Snapcaster Mage is really good.
It's really powerful with removal spells.
Here's Harbinger of the Tides.
Oh, this is not a great spot.
Nah, it is an end-of-turn threat at least.
Sure.
It's a minor benefit.
It's pretty threatening. 2 points of power, 2 points of toughness.
Yep.
That's a lot of numbers.
It looks like Nance is going to make a move here. Got to play something. There's Master of the Pearl Trident. Hiya. An attempt to attack for 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very dangerous attack in the face of a potential Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, it really is.
If Hunter has nothing. But he also can't just wait all day. At some point he's got to make some sort of move.
Well, there's a Terminate. There goes the Master. Here's his Staticaster. That just wants to block since it's an 0-3. All right. There's that exchange. Here comes a Vial. Fast turn back. I think that turn I would have liked to see Hunter just pick up the Arboro and play it again.
Just so Danny knows, I know what my cards do.
Correct. Danny going to pass the turn back. Vial's up to 1. Looks like some copies of Master of Waves in hand. Got a long way to go to get to that, though.
Master Waves has also gotten a lot worse in the face of the Staticaster.
Yeah, take care of the tokens. When I say long way to go with that card, I mean long way from being relevant. Because it's not terribly relevant right now. Now, Mara Regery is pretty relevant. Here come the beatdowns. That's a lightning bolt. Got to keep these lords off the battlefield. Block again. Quick update for you. Tom Ross did just win our backup match, so unfortunately we don't get to jump that way, but the boss is off to a great start here this weekend. Here's the Serum Visions. Looks like Jessup just picked up a Snapcaster Mage. He'll scry now, see a Spell Snare and another Snapcaster Mage. Yep. Yikes. That's an easy split.
And Kolaghan's command is really juicy against Murfolk because they have Aether Vial on top of Shock being pretty good against them.
It's not getting any easier. This is why, we kind of mentioned you got to get this game over with.
Yeah. It's not like Danny was a lock to win this game once we got into this kind of position, but he does have the lion's share of the high impact draws from here.
Command's just really hard to beat.
Yep.
When we get to this stage of the game, Staticaster can maybe help take something down too.
It certainly makes attacking much more problematic for Hunter. And you see he's got Master Waves in his hand. He didn't bother deploying that last turn.
Danny might even have some interest right now of just saying, I'm going to main face Snapcaster Mage because you've got 1 blue available. I've got the mana to play around Curse Catcher. I can kill your Vial and your creature. Looks like he's going to wait, though. Maybe try to set a trap here. Spell Pierce was the draw for Nance. That's actually a pretty good draw for him.
Yeah, it's not bad, assuming that Danny is going for Kolaghan's command in the spot with the Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. And you can tell by the cards that Nance has in his deck, like drawing a Spell Pierce here, that's a card you want to play a shorter game, not a longer game.
Yep.
He wants to try to get this game over with. Mutavault's firing up. Thumbs up, here we come. See how Jessup wants to block. Both those creatures are 2/2s right now, but they could become a 3/3 very quickly. The difficult thing here for Hunter is, again, his hand is kind of forced. He has to keep attacking.
Yeah. Especially with Danny having so many dangerous draws in his deck.
Thought Scour. Target you. 1 and 2. And Jessup will draw a card. So it looks like the card that Jessup had drawn last turn off of the Serum Visions with Thought Scour, and now he's got Snapcaster Mage. This is why the Spell Pierce was such a good draw. Command could have been a blowout here. But instead, it's not going to do very much at all. That'll get Spell Pierced. So 2 damage is going to be dealt.
And this was not great operations here from Danny, in my opinion. I think he's better served doing that before blocks.
Yep.
And in the event that Hunter has something like Spell Pierce or some other counterspell, he can then block with the Snapcaster in front of one of the 2/2s. And because Danny has Staticaster, it doesn't even matter if Hunter Vials in a Lord, he can still check that. So I think Danny would have been much better served doing all of that before blocks were declared.
Potentially even a little main phase action with that too.
Yeah,
Last turn.
I think there's an argument for doing on the main phase. I think there's also an argument for waiting depending on what you're trying to play around. But once you get into that spot, you should be doing all of that before blocks.
Yeah. Because now you're working yourself into something where, with Vial, where you have to think about a lot more stuff now.
Yes.
You know, really, if you're Danny, you want Vial off the board because it's one of Murfolk's most powerful cards, because now you have to worry about Lords coming in and Regery and Master and, who knows what else. Instead, if you're able to get the Vial off the board with Command, they have to tap mana on their own turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the decisions are pretty straightforward on what he has and what you have to play around.
The other issue is, that was an opportunity for Danny to get a block in no matter what happened because of the Staticaster. There's no guarantee you get that spot back.
Yep.
Because Hunter might be able to get multiple Lords into play, and then Snapcaster Mage alongside your Staticaster doesn't kill something necessarily.
This is a Gurmag Angler. Big creature.
Though, good news for Hunter that it's Gurmag Angler, not Tasigur.
Agreed.
Because the way this game is shaping up, Danny could run out of control, activating Tasigur and looping removal spells. A large creature is not great for Hunter, but it's at least something he can work around with Dismember, Island Walk, or some other effects.
Lord of Atlantis to draw. It can be uncounterable. And it is.
And this is why it's so bad, the sequence for Danny last turn.
Yep.
He had an opportunity to block. He does not get that opportunity back as Hunter has an island walking effect.
So this will be an attack for 6. And now Snapcaster Mage is fairly irrelevant, as are the creatures that Danny's drawing. Now he has to draw a removal spell.
Not only does he need a removal spell, he also needs Hunter to not draw any more island walking effects. He's right back in the same problem if Hunter has any sort of other Lord.
Oh, that was a timely draw. It's a turn to take care of Lord of Atlantis, or at least attempt to. Pass the turn back. Will Jessup. Nance will draw. Kira Great Glass Spinner is the draw. Actually a pretty good one in this matchup.
Yeah, and flying is just sweet right now.
Yeah.
Set aside text box, a 2/2 flyer plays.
Staticaster can break the glass shield, but a 2/2 flyer, as you said, is just good.
Yeah.
At this stage.
Danny's at 4, It's not how you draw it up necessarily, but nothing wrong with Windrake right now.
Yeah, it's got relevant text.
Yep.
All right, yeah, pass turn back. Jessup will draw. And take a little look. Creatures you control, including Kira. Whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability for the first time in a turn, counter that spell or ability. So you got to break the glass shield before you can actually kill it.
This also gives Hunter some hope that the Master Waves can be back online.
Again, the best way to break the shield right now for Jessup is the Staticaster that's on the battlefield. So he's actually got a workaround. Not sure what the draw was for Jessup this turn, however. Perhaps a Snapcaster Mage. That would be his best draw if that's it. All right.
As you mentioned, he can break the shield down with Staticaster.
If I'm Jessup, I want Cold Gun's command. Break the shield down. Kill Kira, kill that Vial.
Yep.
That Vial is making things too hard for him. He has to play around so many different things. Tie up his mana. Because at this point, you can't do anything about a Lord. And if he peels one, he peels one. That's life. But you got to get that Vial off the battlefield. It's causing just too much trouble.
Yeah, I mean, his workaround against a Lord would just be to hang back on the Snapcaster Mage. But Danny's already gotten blown up once, getting 2 fancy removal spells. So I actually think this is a spot where he may have been better served waiting a turn to see if Hunter produces a Lord. But Danny already got burned getting a little too fancy, so I think he's just erring on the side of caution.
think he might be making him discard. Yeah, it's deal 2 discard. The reason I don't like discard here is, yes, Hunter has all spells in his hand, but, you know, some of the spells might be bad right now. It might be a backup copy of Vial or, you know, a Spell Pierce or something like that.
A one-toughness creature.
Yeah, that he can't play. You know, Curse Catcher, something like that. There's enough cards that could be bad in his hand right now where I don't care to have him discard a card.
I guess the argument on the other side is it could be something and he's dead to a Lord regardless of whether or not there's a Vial in play.
Sure. It could be Master of Waves, which he actually does have in his hand. Master of Waves is actually pretty bad right now. I just think it's extremely likely that the cards that Hunter has in his hand, at least one of them is dead enough for him to discard.
Yeah.
Heck, he could be happily holding a land. That's what he drew this turn. He drew a copy of Manama. There's 4 mana. Maybe. Kind of wants to play Master of Waves, even though it's not great on this board. That's what he's going to do. It's going to bring some elementals along with it. Looks like Devotion is 3 right now. So Jessup gets on tap. We'll have 3 elemental tokens coming soon, even though it's unclear how long they're going to last.
Although now to your point, your argument about blowing up the Vial, I believe Danny just drew Spell Snare. So now it's really, I suppose there was a cavern in play, so it didn't matter if the Vial was in play.
The thing is that for me, it's time to get aggressive. We got to get this over with. Now, you got to balance it a little bit, but you're dead to a Lord basically no matter what. You know, you're dead to Master of the Pearl Triton, Lord of Atlantis because of Island Walk. But you know, I want to be hitting for chunks of 5. I don't want to be hitting for chunks of 2. That's just too many draw steps for Hunter. I understand that Angler is doing a pretty good job playing defense, but I got to get this game over with if I'm Danny. Because this is actually a situation where, you know, in the previous game, the more draw steps, the better.
Yeah.
In this one now, with where we're at, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, because Danny is actually at risk of getting killed by just any, not even a Lord necessarily, but just one creature being able to overpower.
But you know, you gotta find a way to basically put this game on like a 2-turn clock, or get it to the point where Hunter has to start chump blocking.
Yeah.
Whittle away the army. You gotta make that number of 16 work. You're not gonna draw lands forever. There's an attack for 5. Let's get Danny as a spell. Now he's reaching for the graveyard. So maybe Tasker or Angler here. It's some sort of Del threat. We'll see which one soon enough. If he's tapping that much mana, it's not Tassiger, because he'd leave up an activation if he could. Okay. Time to draw. Nance drew a Kira.
Still the same spot we were in before, where Kira is a reasonable way of racing. You know, Hunter's dealing with a lot of chump blockers. It's going to be hard for Danny to win the game in 2 turns without help, and that might be enough for Kira to steal it.
Yeah, and this is why I feel that Jessup just had to get more aggressive, because something like this could roll off the top of the deck.
Yeah. And now you're looking at potentially dying, not to any island walking or any synergy, but just a Wind Drake.
Not being able to get across the finish line fast enough with your creatures. Again, he's kind of walking a tightrope with what he can and can't attack with, but he's got to try to get this game over with fast. There's not a lot that he can play around, so you know, for me, like on this turn, I'm firing up at least both anglers.
Yeah, he needs to make sure he doesn't leave himself dead on the way back on board.
Yep. Right now, Hunter has 4 creatures on the battlefield: Kira, Master of Waves, the Harbinger of Tides, and then the Mutavault. Mm-hmm. So he's got 3 blockers back because he's at a virtual 2 right now. And we have the privilege of seeing both players' hands, so we know the Hunter doesn't have very much, but I like a chump block there.
Yeah, the question is chump with one or chump with both.
Yep. Pass the turn back, 6-4. Nance will draw. Lord of Atlantis was the draw. That allows him to lethal up.
Yeah, but he's got to commit all of his attackers to it. If he goes for it and fails, he's dead.
Dead, yep.
Now, the reason I would go for it in Hunter's spot is if he kills your Kira, you're probably dead anyway. Like, you had to chump with everything next turn, and then you're drawing to nothing.
Yep.
So I think his hand is forced to go for it regardless.
Little situation analysis.
Yeah. What's your plan to beat Lightning Bolt in this spot anyway? Or beat Terminate, or whatever? I don't think there is a plan. You're dead next turn against those cards. So I think Hunter's hand is forced.
He's going to play Lord of Atlantis. Jessup taking a look at his hand. That's in there.
I mean, it's good for Hunter to think about it, right?
Oh, of course.
If you can beat Lightning Bolt, if there's some way to do it, take a moment there and see if there's a way to do it. But I just don't think there is.
Fire at Mutavault. Everybody. Oh, these two creatures are going to come in. Not everybody. Yeah, and that's going to do it. Hunter Nance going to win this match here over Danny Jessup. 2-0. Murfolk will take care of Grixis Control, and for Nance, number 12 on our Season 3 leaderboard, pretty important win here.
Definitely a big win. Someone who's looking at an at-large bid potentially at the end of the year. And I think that game just came down to the spot where Danny played his spells after blocks.
Yep.
If he blocks first, if he has one extra trade in there, you saw what happened there by the end of the game. He had an overwhelming advantage in resources. He had some Snapcaster mages hanging out, not doing anything. If one of those Snapcasters had traded for something else, it's a very different game.
Can't let Spell Pierce play a role in a game where you have 7 lands.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that issue as well. Maybe he's supposed to flash back a different spell in that spot instead of going for Kolaghan's command to play around Spell Pierce. But just as an operations thing, when you're in a spot where it looks like I'm playing some spells inside of combat, I may or may not be blocking. It's not totally clear how this is all going to go. Do everything before blocks.
Yep.
And then you're working with the information on how you want to block from there. And in that particular spot, I think, it's very common. You get in this habit of, I'll block, all right, before damage, play all these instants. But there's some spots where you need to pry for a little bit of information before you make those blocks. That was the spot that Danny was inside that combat. He lost an opportunity to trade Snapcaster Mage with a Mutavault, and